Shabbat Shalom. So my sermon came from a strange, or at least an unexpected place this week. Very early in the week, about Sunday or Monday, I was looking at the appendix of The Lord of the Rings. And I was reading a description of Gandalf's meeting with Thorin Oakenshield in Bree that was just a happenstance meeting, and Gandalf is describing it, and what he says is that this meeting, this happenstance meeting, led to the destruction of a dragon, which later on prevented terrible tragedies that might have happened if the dragon had survived. And Gandalf ends this description of this chance meeting that this was a coincidence, a happenstance meeting, as we say in Middle-earth. Now, Gandalf obviously was implying something a little bit different in saying a coincidence, as we say in Middle-earth. He was implying maybe there was something more than a coincidence that led to this series of events and the destruction of a dragon and the saving of a people. And I was thinking about that, and it led me to think a little bit about Purim, which may surprise you. But it's not such a big jump. So I was reading in the Gemara this week about Purim, and the Gemara does think a little bit about what were the events that led to Purim. And they say it wasn't just a chance thing that Haman rose and wanted to kill the Jews, that there was a problem, and that the events of Haman were, as the Bible generally builds, a punishment. So the Gemara wonders, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai wonders, what was the sin that was the problem for Purim? And he notes at the very beginning of the Megillah, it describes this big party, and it says everybody in Persia was there and had a good time. So if everybody was there, guess who was there? We were. Well, our ancestors anyway. They were there at Purim, and at King Ahasueros's festival, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, yes, they had a good time, and they were thinking and celebrating the good things about being Jewish in Persia, and it was a great place to be Jewish. You could study Torah, you could worship, you could do whatever you wanted. They had self-rule, they had their own government, more or less. So, what was the problem? The problem was that at this party, they forgot about God, and were thinking, Ahasuerus, that wicked king, he is the one who's responsible for everything that's good. And that was the problem. They forgot God. They forgot that God was there. So, part of the punishment is, if we look at the book of Esther, what's missing? Well, it seems like, wait, let's leave it. It seems like God is missing in the book of Esther. And so, but the question is, if that's true, and this is just a happenstance series of events, Queen Esther King Ahasuerus just happens to choose a Jewish girl to be the queen. She just happens to have an uncle that is a royal official, and all the other events just happen because, well, that's happenstance, as we say, or a coincidence, as we say in Middle-earth. But maybe it's not such a coincidence. So the rabbis think, and they say, we talk about Purim as being a miracle. When we read in the Amidah tonight and tomorrow, we say Al HaNisim, Al HaGvurot, about all these miracles and wonderful deeds that God did. But God seems absent in the book of Esther. God doesn't seem to be there. And that seems to be also what the people think. What we might think if we read the book of Esther, that God's not there. And the people forgot about God, and therefore we need to look much more carefully to find the presence of God. And so the rabbis tell us that there are two different kinds of miracles in the world. And these miracles, this is actually a Hasidic teaching, these miracles come from two different aspects of God. A lower aspect, which we talk about as HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, that's where the miracles happen that we can see that are obvious. They make it easy to find God's presence in the world. And what kinds of miracles are those? Well, the splitting of the sea. Or even when the Maccabees defeat King Antiochus, that's an easy one to see because the Maccabees are this small little group. The Greeks are this giant group, so it's obviously a miracle. So there are some miracles in the world that are obvious, and those come from a lower aspect of God. But a higher aspect of God, which the Hasidim called Havaya, this is the aspect of God where the subtle miracles that are constant happen. These are the miracles that are happening even though we don't know the miracles are happening. These are the miracles that we talk about in the Amidah, when we say that miracles are happening all around us, morning, day, and night. These are the constant miracles, the constant presence of God. And so, where is this found in the book of Esther? Well, first of all, the Hasidic Rebbe who teaches this says that, first of all, these miracles do require a little bit of human action. They require us to take the first step, which allows these miracles to be revealed in the world. So that's a little bit of a subtle change, because although even with the sea, you had to raise up the staff. So they say the miracle would have happened even if Esther hadn't fasted. But Esther fasted, and that showed what? What did Esther show by fasting before the miracle happened? She remembered God's presence. So when we remember God's presence, then the subtle miracles of life can happen. The subtle redemptions can happen. The happenstance occurrence that needs to happen can be found. And so that's what happens in the book of Esther. Though God isn't present, Esther and Mordechai believe, Esther and Mordechai live as if God is there, even though God seems absent. And because they remember God's presence, therefore redemption is able to happen. Now, that's a challenge for us in a world where it seems dark. But we need to open our eyes and remember that God is present everywhere and that miracles are happening constantly. But we have to be the vehicles that allow those miracles to happen. We have to be the Esther and Mordechai of our age that allow miracles to change the world. We have to be there, we have to be present, and we have to remember that everything we have doesn't just happen because of luck, doesn't just happen because of some human being who allows it, or some state or anything else, but instead, the real miracles happen because God is there, God remembers, and God is behind, to some degree at least, all that happens. Now, the Rebbe then says, where do we actually find God's presence in the book of Esther? And he says, we actually find it on every page of the book of Esther. So, where do you think that is? Where is the name of God found every page of the book of Esther? What one word do you think is found there?
One of my trivia questions tonight, so pay attention.
Well, I wonder if we come up with the same answer. Yes, exactly. Every time the word king is found in the book of Esther, it has nothing to do with Ahasuerus, but it really is a subtle reminder to us that God is present, God is there, and we need to open our eyes and find God. Shabbat Shalom.